Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Jay and welcome to the Shiplife. So in some shocking and breaking cruise news, we have the first cruise line in the entire world, in the entire cruise ship industry, that has eliminated pre-cruise COVID testing in order to sail. Now in this video, we will be talking about, of course, the cruise line that has made this change, and also who this potentially will affect, who it won't affect, and what this means for the cruise ship industry as we move forward. So effective immediately, Viking Cruises has announced that not only will they be ending the pre-cruise COVID test in order to sail, they're also going to be ending the daily testing that they were conducting on board their ships, as all of their ships have been fitted with COVID labs. Now, something you gotta know, and what's really important with this whole story and news that's breaking out with Viking Cruises, is that Viking Cruises is headquartered over in Switzerland, meaning they're not headquartered in the United States or near the jurisdiction of the CDC. The only thing is that they have two ships that are also sailing over in the United States and Canada, which is Orion and the Octantis. They also have a marketing headquarters over in LA. But other than that, the rest of their ships within their fleet and their three divisions, being of course Viking River Cruises, Viking Ocean Cruises, and Viking Expeditions, is outside the United States, meaning they're out of the CDC's jurisdiction. This is important because the CDC is the one that's making the rules as far as the pre-cruise testing for cruise ships that are operating within the United States and U.S. waters. This new news does come off the heels of some news that we recently had announced by the CDC that stated as of June 10th, any American traveler that is going from a foreign country back to the United States no longer has to present a negative COVID test in order to enter the United States. However, the caveat is that that traveler must be traveling by air, not by cruise ships. This did unfortunately cause a lot of cruise lines to be kind of up in arms and say, hey, wait a minute, how come we aren't being subject to the same rules? If travelers by air are allowed to go to a foreign country and then come back without presenting a negative COVID test, what does this mean for us? How come we're being treated differently? Well, I have stated recently that unfortunately we had the catalyst with like the Diamond Princess and the media and everything else that's pretty much going on within the cruise ship industry over recent weeks. I don't think the CDC is going to be very quick to jump the gun and say, well, we're going to allow you guys to eliminate pre-cruise testing, because as we all know, the CDC has been harder on cruising more than really any other travel industry. So, I mean, it's expected, but it still does kind of suck. Now, we did have the CEO of Viking Cruises, Torsten Hagen. He did come out and state that he is pleased with the new announcement by the CDC, because obviously it's going to make things a lot easier for their overall, well, cruise line in order to make profits, because a lot of travelers, let's say that are American, they can now go over, take a Viking cruise without the fear of being stuck over there should they test positive, because this is something we've seen with other travelers that test positive that are American. They go to Europe and they end up being stuck there for X amount of time, not knowing when they're going to return home, or they just end up dealing with a lot of unwanted, unneeded stress. So I do understand on that fact. Now, when it comes to Viking in this new announcement, they have made it very clear that they are still going to conduct COVID testing on board, because like I said, they have labs on board. However, it's going to be one of those things that they're going to test if you are symptomatic, or for any other reason. Let's say somebody actually does need a COVID test in order to travel, they'll be able to do it that way. But they're also saying that when it comes to the pre-cruise COVID test, it is not required, but highly recommended. That's something that's important to note. They also didn't exactly state what destinations would and would not require pre-cruise testing in order to be able to go to those destinations, because we all know that when it comes to pre-cruise testing, it's not just up to the cruise line to make that decision. There are other factors involved, like the ports of call, local governments, and everything else in between all of that. Now, of course, to the big question, what does this mean for cruise lines that are operating in the United States and in U.S. waters? Does this mean that sooner rather than later, we're going to see the CDC come out and say that cruise lines, they have the option to stop pre-cruise testing if they want to? I don't think so, to be honest, at this point in time, because I will say that, first of all, it is shocking to me that Viking, out of all the cruise lines out there, become the first cruise line to end pre-cruise testing on board, because the average age demographic for Viking is anywhere between 50 to 70 years old. They've also been extremely conservative throughout this entire pandemic. So for them to put out this news, they say this is the reason why they did it, which does make sense if you really think about it. Now, just looking at the United States, I know that's what most of us are worried about as far as pre-cruise testing. There are some that want it to end, there's some out there that understand why it can't end, because we've seen that our crew and guests and everybody else involved with cruising, there have been, unfortunately, a rise in COVID cases. Either that, or it's probably just being put out more by the media. I do believe that potentially when it comes to Viking, they are going to be somewhat of the catalyst and the thing to watch. Not so much the airlines or anybody else. They're going to watch, or the cruise lines, rather, maybe even the CDC, hopefully, and see how all this goes down. Let's say it all works out. They keep the vaccine mandate and they end the COVID testing on board, and they end up having no outbreaks, no no major cases or anything like that, then maybe at some point the CDC can come out and say, Viking is doing okay. Why don't you guys relax, if you want to, your pre-cruise testing requirements, and we'll go from there. Like I said, I do believe this is a ways off. We could be looking at something happening as long as COVID continues to decrease as far as the amount of cases, anywhere between 3 to 6 months, but it's something that we'll all have to keep a watchful eye on. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this news and everything else in between in the comment section below. Of course, just know that I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'm actually getting ready to go to Universal Studios. My day off. I'm taking some of my crew members that I'm working with over here with Virgin Voyages, and yeah, it's going to be a good day. I appreciate all of you guys. I'll see you later on. Take it easy.